Welcome to the Entrepology Podcast. I'm your host, Megan Walker. As a former naturopathic doctor and anthropologist, I align the intersection of personal performance, purpose, and innovative thinking in badass women working to change the world as entrepreneurs and go-getters. Anthropology is the study and science of what makes an entrepreneur think, feel, and perform in a path compelled by a vision for helping others, solving problems, while building a life on your own terms. Together, we are exploring the health, mindset, and strategies that distinguish the world's best entrepreneurs. This is the Entrepology Podcast. Welcome to episode 253 of the Entrepology Podcast, and this is coinciding with the last week of 2021. And I don't know about you, but this is a year that there have been lessons, there have been ups and downs, but I consider 2021 a fully depreciated asset. I am going to be able to look back and know that I learned things, but I am quite happy to package it up and stick it on the shelf and move on to the blank slate of 2022. And, every year I do an episode. I can say that now because I've been doing this long enough that every year I do an episode right at the end of the year where I really kind of reflect over the course of the last year. I do this in my own life and I share this here. And this time I want to do that, but I was trying to wrap my head around this reflection and distill down these sort of pivotal moments in the year. And I wrote about this recently on Instagram because I achieved a number of goals I've been really working hard to achieve over the last few years. They came to fruition this year, and there's a few more that I will come to fruition next year. But what I realized in that is that many of the things that had been disguised as goals for me were actually just decisions. They were choices that I make. I had to make different choices to have immediate access to some of these things that I had wanted for a long period of time. And it's sort of in that vein that I want to reflect on 2021 and set some intentions moving into 2022. I want to approach this from a place of curiosity, things I want to explore in the new year. And I thought what I would do with respect to this current year, the closing off of 2021, is take you through some of the decisions that I made. And I thought all of these things, these were like goals, and none of these things are actually goals. They were decisions that resulted in an immediate return on investment in my life. And that's one of the things I'd love to challenge you with as you are reflecting and looking into a new year, is really making sure that you have a lens to distinguish what are the things that I want to see happen in 2022 that are actually associated with a decision versus I've got some steps and things I've got to go through in order to realize them as goals. And that's not to say that decisions are easy. There isn't work involved in being able to make them. But sometimes the things we're chasing in life are actually way easier to attain. We literally just have to make the decision. And so in reflection, there were 5 things that I made a decision to do differently in 2021 that actually had a really profound effect on my life and how I felt. The first one was a very conscious decision to turn off mainstream news. And this started, I've heard entrepreneurs have talked about this forever. They're like, I don't watch the news. And I really resisted that. I was like, I don't agree with that. If I don't know what's happening in the world, I can't dream up ideas related to it, or I don't have that breadth of information. I felt a sense of responsibility to know that. But what I realized is that I can still inform myself around what's happening in the world, but it doesn't have to come from the mainstream media. And that's the conscious part of that intention here, is I wanted to start to acquire through reading, not through the music and the fanfare and the news alerts and the complete physiological and neurochemical engagement and augmentation of the news, but just by reading the news and reading the words completely changed my relationship to the state of fear that is pervasive in the world. And so I made the decision to stop watching and listening to mainstream news. And I could immediately feel this decrease in this inherent fear sensitization within my body. Not that I was ever scared at the beginning, but sometimes I would find my nervous system firing, and I couldn't exactly place why it was. And it was because I was all revved up about something that was happening in some primary election in some state I knew nothing about that had no bearing on my life. And so I really consciously stepped out of it. I made the decision to stop listening and watching mainstream news. The second decision I made for myself in 2021 that had a profound effect. Listen, I made lots of choices that didn't. So I'm sharing the highlights as one does in the online space, is that I just chose to go to bed earlier. And while I don't always fall asleep earlier, and sometimes I keep reading a little bit longer, I put myself in the environment where it was much easier to go to sleep than, popping some popcorn and sitting on the couch and turning on Billions or some other binge-worthy television show. I removed myself from the environment that made that easy and put myself in an environment that would make going to sleep easier. And it's made a huge difference. It's made a huge difference in my sleep scores. It's made a huge difference in how I feel in the morning. And it's made a massive difference in how I treat my family between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. There's probably so many additional residual benefits from that, but I've really consciously given myself permission and space and ease to restore every single day. And I have the gift of, like, when I decide to go to sleep, I can just fall asleep. I know not everyone has that, but I do. And I wanted to stop taking advantage of that and really lean into this idea of going to bed, making it a superpower for me. The third decision I made was I really, by and large, like 99% effective here, have stopped drinking red wine. And I love wine. I toyed with looking at courses around, being a sommelier. I thought it'd be a super fun thing to explore, and I still might. But what I can't drink red wine and stay awake. And this has been going on for the last 5 years. And it's just like the slightest little sip, while I love it, I don't feel well almost instantly, almost pervasively. And I might recommit to trying to find the red wines and the cause of it. But for the moment, the decision I made was to stop drinking it. And it immediately improved my quality of life. And you could input any word or any type of food or any kind of consumption to replace that red wine thing. But really it was about when I intuitively just knew something was not being enjoyed by my body on a cellular level, I took it out. And so the challenge for everybody in hearing that is, what things do you just intuitively know are not good for you that you could make a decision to remove starting today? The fourth decision that I made, this was a big one. This, I feel like, took me years to take. This is what I'm saying. Not all decisions are immediate, but it had to be a decision for me. And that was, I decided to lean into this idea of difficult conversations. So I was really aware that I was constantly on a detour in my life because I didn't want to have awkward or sad or confronting conversations, whether that was with work or that was with family or that was anywhere. And I really just made a decision that I was tired of doing these circuitous routes and this extra emotional work or hanging on to something that was really bothering me because I didn't want to have difficult conversations. And so I would really intentionally put that difficult conversation on my calendar, and I knew it would be coming up, and I would, in my head, really talk myself through what's the worst that can happen. And it's usually a feeling. And I would sit with that. And I did a lot of work with that this year because I knew for me to continue to grow that it's not every once in a while or maybe never again that I will have a difficult conversation. It's going to happen. It's going to happen a lot. And how I approach those and how I handle them when they come upon me suddenly, or when I have to drive them intentionally, it would significantly increase my quality of life if I started to work around the mindset I needed to have in those conversations, how to not take things personally, how to listen to that other side. If my husband's listening to this, he's going to say, I have a little bit of work to do on listening to the other side. I would argue that's still just with him. But it's a work in progress, but it's something I intentionally decided that I wanted to get better at because I didn't like the feeling of not being good at it. So it is a work in progress that I decided to focus on in 2021. And lastly, similarly to that vein, I decided to get better. My fifth decision was making the decision to stand up for myself when I felt that there was injustice happening to me. And the context for that is throughout the course of my life, I've been really good at, if someone else was in pain or going through something, and I could bear some of that pain for them or not share how I'm feeling in a certain situation because I made assumptions around how that would make them feel. I just decided to own my displeasure or own the injustice. And I made the decision that it is also possible to stand up for myself and do it in a compassionate manner, that waiting until I was so frustrated and so angry that I lashed out or walked away or handled it in some other less evolved way, that I really could stand up for my needs and speak to and self-advocate around my own needs, and know that that wasn't necessarily going to take away from the other person's experience. And also that I could do it in such a way that it was still compassionate, and it was still coming from a loving place. And I was able to then start to stand up for myself, not when I got so angry that I lashed out immaturely, similar to the difficult conversation piece, but again, that I could just compassionately share how what I needed, the boundaries that I was having in place, and it felt really good. It felt really good to do that, and I will continue to refine that skill. So those were 5 things upon reflection, like 5 decisions that I had made this year that really actually were starting to have a profound influence on my life. And those questions: what would you tell your younger self? And I put this on a list of 25 things I want to teach my kids, but one of them being learning how to have difficult conversations. If I could have learned to do that earlier in my life, I could have accelerated in certain areas that I circumvented around. But most importantly, what it would have done is just decreased my anxiety and brought me peace of mind in so many situations that really riled me up. So it's something I'm going to continue to lean into, because I want to teach my kids how they can do that too, how to have those compassionate conversations. So, on this notion of decisions, as I look into 2022, I recognize, there's some decisions I could probably work towards, and some ideas and explorations and curiosities that I can throw down on the table as I move into the new year. And so I want to share that my intention for 2022, I always pick a word. I know we all do this in the online space, maybe in like real life too. The word I've picked for 2022 is expand. And I'm kind of like really feeling that and really loving it, because it can apply to the sort of the tangible expansion of what I want to do with my work and what I want to shift in the podcast. Just you wait, there's fun things coming. But it also actually refers to what I'm feeling and longing for internally in my own growth, is really sort of taking some things to the next level. And so with that intention of expansion in mind, there are a few things I'm going to lean into from a state of curiosity or decision-making in 2022. And I want to share with you those 5 things. And so the first thing is this idea of setting boundaries. And so I've gotten much more clear with my schedule around what I want to handle and what I want to take on, what time of day I want to start leaning into work, what kind of people I'm willing to take on and allow into my personal space and my personal strategy consulting space, and really being mindful of how not having those boundaries has enabled some festering resentment to start to emerge. I don't want that. I don't want that in my body. I don't want it in my schedule. And so I'm going to take responsibility for that by setting some boundaries. Now, talk about taking responsibility. This next one has nothing to do with that. However, I just want to declare it here that I am going to commit. I'm going to commit to learning more about, not necessarily learning more about, wait for it, TikTok. I know we just went from boundaries to TikTok. Currently, when I turn on TikTok, I want to vomit. I feel like my brain cells are literally popping in front of me, partly because it's so darn addictive really quickly. Like people are doing some smart, cool, creative, fun stuff on TikTok. And well, yes, I will always argue from a business consulting perspective, you should be on a platform where your demographic is hanging out. My feeling on TikTok, I like TikToks too. My feeling on watching TikTok's evolution, watching where they're marketing and how they're marketing and what marketing companies they're paying to show up in front of, is that this is actually poised to be a massive platform that with a few simple pivots and change in marketing dollars can change the demographic they're going after. And so I suspect I will regret sticking to my guns around not wanting to be on TikTok. And so I'm going to explore it. And I will let you know when that I pull the trigger on that piece, because I'd love for you to hang out with me along that journey. And I'm also I'm really conscious about sharing that I am resisting this. I'm having some temper tantrums about it. And that's okay. It's okay to step out of our comfort zone. So I'm consciously doing that. Number 8, diametrically opposed energetically from TikTok is, or number 3, however you want to look at it, is I really want to lean into this year of exploring and spending time in and committing to meditation, breath work, and learning more about the role of psychedelics in healing. There's a massive body of research, obviously, on the first 2. There is an increasing body of knowledge around the third, and I'm really interested. I'm really interested in I'm not talking about psychedelics like taking psychedelics in the 60s and people making horrific decisions and the pure hedonistic pleasure of taking drugs they shouldn't take. I'm not talking about that. I'm not actually talking about the refined knowledge we have around psychedelics and plant medicine and its role in healing traditions around the world for thousands of years. I want to learn more about that this year. It's a conversation I've had with a lot of people recently, and it's something that I'm really interested in exploring at this phase of my life. And then there's 2 last pieces. So the fourth element is, in that meditation and in that breath work and in my own evolution, I really want to embrace this idea of forgiveness. And I shared with someone this week that I have a daily forgiveness practice that I go through. I also have the genetic makeup and neurochemistry where I don't hold on to little things. So I'm not the person who will call you 6 months later and be like, remember that time you did this, and then bring it up every time. It just vanishes from my memory pool. But those are always the little things, like the big betrayals, those big ones, those are things I think we universally have to work towards removing. And I did a great podcast this year with Dr. Debbie Silber about this notion of betrayal. And there's a few pieces of forgiveness, some of which are with myself that I really want to work through and release into the universe this year, or integrate into who I am, and not still have them sitting there. So that's something I'm really going to consciously explore and work through with the assistance of other people, because there are things that are going to get in the way, I know, of my constant and ongoing growth. And lastly, I want to have more fun. I want to have more fun. So one thing I'm really good at is I can put my head down and I can work. That is something I have never had any reservation or incapacity around. But sometimes when I can get too focused, and I lose and forget to have fun along the way. And I talk about play all the time. We put a slide in the middle of our house. Like, this is an important value to me, and I really have to consciously cultivate and curate it in my life. And so for all of you who know me, just know that one of my big intentions for 2022 is to have more fun. If you feel like you have a role to play in accelerating my access to fun, please don't hesitate in reaching out to me and letting me know that you would like to be a part of that, because I am looking to party in 2022 in all states of being. I want to practice taking life a little bit less seriously, which I feel like is a lesson we could all take out of 2020 and 2021. So on that note, I didn't mean to make this all about me. What I wanted to do, my intention behind this list, was really to just provide some ideas, some content on the table that you could pick up if it is helpful to you, to remind everyone and to know, like, I'm in it with you this week as we set intention walking into a new year, and that I'm really excited about some of the things we're going to bring to you as we move into this year. We were 253 episodes into this podcast. We're going to make some big changes in how I deliver content on this platform. I'm really excited about some of the direction that we're going to move, and I'm going to explore. And it is in the vein of fun. It is in the vein of having interesting and intriguing conversations. And we're going to try some new things. So I'm excited to take you on that journey with me. Like always, if you want to hang out with some like-minded people, then follow along definitely here. It's easier to do that if you are able to leave us a review on Spotify or Apple or wherever you happen to listen to podcasts. And if you want to hang out with a cohort, a collective of people who are interested in the same things as you, entrepreneurship and creativity and mindset and health optimization, you are always welcome to join us inside the Entrepology Collective, our free Facebook group. So I'm wishing all of you, on that note, an incredible end to the year, a brilliant start to 2022. Wishing you and all of your families an amazing and happy new year. And we will see you and hear you and chat next year.